This video will discuss Chapter 7.2, Fractions, Decimals, and Percents. And so I want to start with a trick that we're going to talk about later in this video that has to do with jumping the decimal. Okay, and I'm going to show you this trick, but I want to make sure it's not magic. You understand where this is coming from. So if you take this problem, 200 divided by 100, 200 divided by 100 equals 2. And so essentially the jumping the decimal trick is if I take this number 200, remember that the decimal is on this side of the 200, right? This is basic place value, so I could put zeros here if I wanted to, right? Going this way. So it would be 0.0000, however many I want. So the zero on the number 200, the zero is to the right of the second zero. If I'm going to divide by 100, I'm basically going to jump the decimal this many places. There are two zeros there, so I'm going to jump it 2 places. So I'm going to jump it 1, 2, and the decimal would then go there, so it would be 2 point, right? And then because that's where the decimal is, I don't have to put that decimal, and so my answer then is 2, which obviously is the same thing that you got there. Now in this particular problem, it wouldn't necessarily matter which way you did it. You could imagine a problem where it might be easier to solve it this way as opposed to this way. So that's one way to jump the decimal. Let's talk about, so that's when you're dividing by 100, or dividing by a factor of 10, 100, 10, 100, 1,000, a million. You're just, when you divide, you're going to move it to the left. This number should get smaller. So it went from 200 to 2. Now let's talk about what happens when you multiply. So you get a number like 2, and I'm multiplying times 100. I'm purposely picking numbers that are going to end up being very similar, and so this basically is the opposite. 2 times 100 is 200. Now, if I use the decimal trick, what's going to happen is, because I'm multiplying by 100 and there are again 2 zeros, I'm now going to jump the decimal 2 places to the right. So because I'm multiplying, I'm going to increase the value of this number. I'm moving it to the right. This is going to jump 1, 2. The decimal will go here. I need to fill in these spots with zeros. And so now you can see that I have my number 200. Okay, so this is ways that we can solve these problems that we're about to work on without necessarily using a calculator. So if I want to change 16% into a decimal, what I'm going to end up doing is using this. Basically tells me for every 100 or divided by 100. Right? So if I were to write this as a fraction, as we worked on before, this could be 16 over 100. Now 16 over 100 is the same as 16 divided by 100. So if I'm going to divide 60, I'm going to erase this so it doesn't get in our way. And so if I'm going to divide 16 by 100, I can take the number 16. The decimal point is here. If I'm going to divide by 100, I'm going to end up moving it 2 to the left. So that means I'm going to move the decimal 1, 2. The decimal is now going to go here, which means my answer should be 0.16. I want you to notice that I put a 0 in front of the decimal. So if there's nothing in front of the decimal, to the left of the decimal, you need to make sure that there is a 0 there. Okay, please don't leave your answer like this. As you can see, that might be very confusing to get as a final answer. There are 2 decimal points. It's not entirely clear the direction, though the arrow should give some indication, but this is more for me to understand, and then this is to be as my final answer. All right, now, when I'm looking at 9, get a number like 9. The decimal point is here. This tells me that I'm dividing by 100. So I need to take this, I need to go 1, 2. The decimal point is going to go here. There is now an empty space there, so that now needs to become a 0. Again, this is just for me. My final answer should be 0.09. So 16% as a decimal is 0.16. 9% as a decimal is 0.09. Okay, that's jumping the decimal to the left as I'm moving from percent to decimal. Now what happens when I'm trying to go the other way? I'm going from decimal to percent. So I got 0.02. I want to make this into a percentage, so I'm now going to do the opposite. When I was going this direction, from percent to decimal, I was moving from percent to decimal. I was moving the decimal point 2 to the left. I am now going to move 2 in the other direction, so I'm going to go 2 to the right. So I got the number 0.2. I'm going to move this 2 to the right. So that's going 1, 2. My decimal is now going to be here. There's a blank there, so I need to fill that in with a 0. So I now have 2 0 decimals, so my answer is 20. I want you to notice that you write the answer as 20. There are no decimal points because we know the decimal should be there. We don't have to include it. Okay, I also want you to notice I am not putting a 0 in front of the 20 because you don't need to. Okay, so some of these numbers and decimals will be extra, right, or superfluous as we're getting our final answer. That's your vocab word for the day, by the way. So here is 0.005. I'm now going to move the decimal, so let's rewrite it, 0.005. I want to turn that, sorry, made a mistake up there. This should be a percent. Right, so it's not 0.20%, it's not 20%, it's just 20%. So down here, I'm changing this to a percentage, which means I'm moving it 2 to the right. So this is going to go 1, 2. It's going to go here. So now I still have the point and the 5. Remember, if there's nothing to the right, to the left of the decimal, I need to put a 0 there. And this is a percentage. So there is my final answer. 0.5% is 0.005 as a percentage. Okay, so remember now when I'm going from decimal to percent, I'm moving to the right. Okay, and then the final type of problem I want to make sure we're comfortable with is what happens when I'm given it as a fraction and I want to change it to a percentage. And so first thing I need to do is change this to a decimal. So I would take a calculator, or maybe I might know what 5 divided by 8 is. And 5 divided by 8 is 0.625. Okay, now that's from fraction to decimal, but I want it as a percent. So I'm now going to take the decimal, I'm moving it 2 to the right, means the decimal is now going to go there. And so this becomes 62.5%. Okay, make sure you are writing it properly. Now, 7 over 3. 7 divided by 3 is going to actually give me a repeating decimal, and so this is going to end up being 2.3333, and I'm going to purposely write out all these 3's, right? Remember that they go on forever. There is a symbol, and we're going to talk about that symbol in just a second, that I might want to use, but for the sake of moving the decimal, I want you to be able to see that there are the 3's that go on forever. So I'm now going to take my decimal because I'm trying to change it to a percent. I need to move it 2 to the right. It means I'm going 1, 2. So it's going, my decimal now should be here. So this is now 233 with the decimal point there. And then I got this 3, and remember these 3's are going on forever. And so if you remember, my symbol for repeating decimal is that line on top, and then percent. 233.3 repeating percent is 7/3 as a percentage. All right, that's all we got for you on this section. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to do the problems on the bottom of the page. I'll see you in class.